Well, Dr. Lauren Amoss, thank you so much for speaking to Times Now. And we're also speaking at a very important time because Indo-Israeli relations have really taken off over the last 8 to 10 years, especially under the current dispensation that's in power in India, and also simultaneously, of course, when Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu has been the Prime Minister of Israel as well. Now, we're also speaking very shortly after Mr. Piyush Goyal, India's Commerce and Industry Minister, was in Israel for a few days, and he's concluded his visit. He met his Israeli counterpart, Mr. Neil Barkat. Among a whole host of others, he also met Mr. Netanyahu. He also met the Israeli President, Mr. Isaac Herzog. What was your takeaway from this particular visit? Because often we see Indo-Israeli relations through the prism of counter-terrorism and defense, but Mr. Goyal's visit exemplified that there's so much more to that relationship, is there not?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. So for me, from my perspective, it's very interesting and amazing because I'm a researcher in India and Israeli relationship. And, you know, in the 19th, when we only start our formal relationship in January 1992, the visits were asymmetric. I mean, Israel sent a high rank to India, but India was, and I really understand that because of the situation with Kashmir and the Israeli-Palestine conflict here in the Middle East. So it was very asymmetric. But as you say, for Modi rules from 2014, the situation was a very a game changer. And it's really important because India and Israel, we are not just a cooperation in defense and in agriculture and water. We have really deepens interest and it depends common things, common threats, but common values. We are both democracy. The only democracy in the area. I mean, India, the only democracy between China and Pakistan. We are the only democracy here in the Middle East.
And two very noisy democracies as well. We are also a very noisy democracy. So is Israel. They're also used to a lot of coalition governments from the past. Israel is also governed by coalitions, yes.
And we have the same threats, the radical Islam inside our country and outside. We have the colonialism period, the British colonialism period, and we have the relationship with USA. So I think it goes without saying our relationship, but I think that the average man, I'm sorry about that, doesn't understand that we are only 32 years formal relationship, and it's amazing that we came through to this point that the Indian government realized, and also Israel, I must say that, realized that we must formalize, and we got much deeper in our relationship. And again, we are not only in the defense sector, we have a mutual interest, but really we have AI and quantum and energy, green energy, space. I mean, whatever issue you will say, I will tell you, India and Israel, we have a mutual interest, and it's very, very important. And for me to see how the India side publish and the stuff that the complete about Israel and India, it's amazing for me. And I don't take it for granted, really. I see the complex and I understand that, and I wish that it always get deeper.
Dr. Amoss, why is it that you chose India as your field of study? Because I've read, and you compared the philosophies of Martin Buber and Mahatma Gandhi as part of your PhD doctoral dissertation. You also had a stint with the IDF, did you not, before you got injured, and then you turned to academics. Can you tell us about your background and why India interested you so much?
Yeah, thank you so much. Wow, thank you. So as you say, when in the army, I was a fighter. And back then, in 2003, it was not a lot of women in the IDF as fighters, and I got injured. And after a long time, 1 year of recovery, I went to India. And for the first time, I did yoga, and I made some friends, and I traveled in North India. And for me, it was, wow, I can breathe again. And I was, wow, it's amazing experience. I cannot express in words. And when I get back, I start my BA, and I found out that in the Israeli academic, we don't learn about India. We learn about only philosophy. And I said, no, I want to learn much more about that, the political aspect, the defense aspect. As and you say, in my MA, I wrote about Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Buber. I did the comment, and it was very amazing. But then I understand that I'm not a philosopher. So in my PhD, I wrote about India and the Israel-Palestine conflict. But actually, my PhD is not about Israeli-Palestine conflict. It's about the attitude, the foreign and security policy of India, and how she react to this kind of conflicts. And for me, that when Russia-Ukraine war started, finally, here in Israel, they understood what I'm doing, because it's very similar for the Indian, it's very similar, the Israeli-Palestine conflict and the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. And they finally understood what I'm doing here. And when I finished my PhD, I started to focus on the defense strategy. And again, for me, India, it's complex, but I said it's a complement, okay? It's amazing things. Every day you learn something new. Every day there is another issue that I can deal with that. Every time I came to India, as Modi ji said it in the famous podcast, he said every 2 kilometers in India you are seeing a different India. And this is what, for me, India. Every day I got to. I have PhD and everything, and I write articles, but as you ask me, I'm a researcher. I'm only a researcher because India, you can never be an expert, because it's amazing place. It's a very variety in the language, in the culture, in the foreign policy. And for me, what India, and especially what Modi doing, it's for me, for the first time, it's not in the Western or a vision, it's India vision. And I really want to deliver this message and to focus on that.
Lauren, you've written something very interesting. Recently, I read an article that you've written in the Diplomat, where you basically, rather the Jerusalem Post, I beg your pardon, you actually wrote this in the Jerusalem Post, where you talked about the importance of the Indo-Pacific as far as Israel's strategic future is concerned, and you've been an advocate of Israel increasingly playing a role in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, I was checking some numbers. The bilateral trade between Israel and China in 2024 was approximately $25 billion US. The bilateral trade between India and Israel in 2024 was about 8 times less of that. You're talking about 3.5 to 4 billion US. Why is it that a bilateral trade is so low? And what is Israel looking forward to as far as economic and strategic cooperation with India is concerned, especially with the Indo-Pacific in mind and China in mind? Can you take us through those details, please?
Yeah. So we need to be true to ourselves. Israel doesn't have a formal strategic for the Indo-Pacific. Not like the countries in the Europe that now in the last year they have a really specific defense strategy to the Indo-Pacific. We just start to realize what is this place and why it's so important. And I must say a couple of things that maybe for the India here it's not a good thing, but please, I hope that you will understand me.
Of course.
India and China, the bilateral trade are much higher than Israel and China trade. And this is how China works. She makes other countries to be dependent in their trade. we cannot, there's the empiric
It's
fact.
empirical data, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So for us, we are not, I'm a researcher, okay? We are not looking for a deeper relationship with China. China these days are working with Iran and North Korea and Russia. And for us, it's a very big deal. I mean, after a war with Iran is now much looking for China, and China worked with Pakistan. I mean, there is a complex picture that we need to see here. For us, the important actors in the Indo-Pacific is India, Japan, the Philippines, South Korea, Australia. These are the important countries. India now, and it goes without saying, she's the leader of the Indo-Pacific. Why our bilateral trade are so low? Because there is a lot of reason. Only in the last decade, we are getting deeper in our relationship. Until 2014, our relationship was under the table and focused on water and agriculture and maybe defense. But I think now, as I said before, India and Israel, it's important to say that the two actors realized that the mutual interest. For the India, Israeli market, it's very difficult because you're looking for a final product. And we are a startup nation. We can give your ideas and information. And it's very difficult because these are economic average. So we need to balance, the Israeli market need and must see India as a much greater market, and we need to go there, especially in making India, that now it's Make India to the world. And now, if you want to go to do business with the world, you need to do business with India. It's very important to understand that. But India needs to understand that a lot of things that are missing to India, or they want to improve themselves, they need Israel. And I think right now, the last visit and the last MOU between India and Israel that signed last month, we start to understand each other. But as you know, the regulation in India, the regulation in Israel are very difficult. But maybe now they will understand each other. The private sector, I hope that the Israeli will understand the India culture and how to do business with India, and vice that India will understand the Israeli culture, that we are working right now. We need to do things right now. In India, you have the Indian time, and it's in a good way, okay? In a very good way. You have India time. You need to think about it. You have very regulation. I mean, you are 1.5 million people in India, so we need to understand our situation here. So I don't see it as a bad way. I want to say that as an optimistic view, that it's the start. We're starting right now, because until 2014, India and Israel was agriculture, water, okay, but we have much more to give to India, and India has much more to give to Israel. So cross the finger, we will start to realize that.
Lauren, do you believe that Israel has trust issues with China, which it will not with India? Can you tell us a bit more about the concerns that Israel has with respect to its reliability on China vis-a-vis its supply chains? China also, of course, trying to make further inroads into the Middle East.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying. I mean, China make the Indo-Pacific being unstable arena because of Taiwan inspiration, because what she's doing with the South China Sea and all the supply chain. It will be difficult for India, and it will be difficult for us. It's China. It's in the newspaper all over. She has a lot great project, economic project here in Israel. And if China will want to do something terrible, she can shut down Israel. So we are in a situation like in India. Actually, like in every country in the world, like USA, like Germany, like Africa right now, a lot of countries depend on the relationship with China. But again, we need to understand the priority is like-minded countries, democracy, same trades, same market. I think we have the same spirit for us, the Israeli and the Indian. I mean, we are much more like a common more than other countries. So every country in the world are making a issue with that. So I don't think that this should be the obstacle in our relationship. I think we need to get through that. And again, India now do a direct flight to China, but for Israel, we don't have direct flight right now. And it's very difficult. If you want to do business, we need that the flight will be 5 hours and a half, 6 hours, I know. So if we need to start from that. China cannot be our factor in our relationship. No, the opposite. We need to see each other, the mutual interest. And I think that in the Sindor operation last May, even again, it was published, and it wasn't the first time that Israel stood by India, and like India stood by Israel on October 7. Modi ji was the first a global leader in the world that wrote in Twitter in October 7. I will not forget, really, I will never forget that. He wrote, "We are with Israel people. I want to condemn this terrible thing that Hamas did." So it's solidarity that he gives Israel. Wow, it's so important, and we need to focus on that, not on China, really.
You wrote something about India's security doctrine. You mentioned Operation Sindoor. You co-authored an article very recently with Dr. Spencer as well. Let me read for the benefit of our viewers an excerpt of what you've written. There's a China factor that you talk about in this article too, towards the end. I'll just read 2 paragraphs. India has also redefined its counter-terrorism doctrine. Proxy groups are treated as instruments of state policy. Zero tolerance refers not only to the occurrence of terrorism, but to the continued existence of the networks that enable it. India now views the broader ecosystem surrounding terror groups as a legitimate set of targets. A final dimension is often overlooked. China is the silent second audience for India's choices. Signals meant for Pakistan carry an implied message for Beijing. India's interception of Chinese origin PL-15 air-to-air missiles and its successful defeat of Pakistan's Chinese-supplied air defense systems during Sindoor provided valuable intelligence on Chinese weapons design and vulnerabilities. India's new deterrence logic is built for a two-front environment in which actions in one direction have consequences in another. What's the importance and the implications of this new security doctrine that India has evolved? Would you say it also is in some way similar to Israel's responses when it is at the receiving end of terrorism? Is that a fair comparison, or is there something different that India is doing? What's your assessment?
Okay, so we have 2 hours for this talk, right?
No, if you can sum it up, in 2 minutes, that'll be great.
Because it's a great question. I think what Modi did after Operation Sindoor, and actually from the Pangalam terror attack, he said, okay, we are changing the rule games. We need zero tolerance for a terror attack. But I need to say something important. And again, it's for the best, for the good of India. Modi need to be reliable about this thing. If he say zero tolerance for attack, so everyone, and especially the dracon in the room, will follow this statement. I mean, the dracon is waiting for this statement will be, not reliable. India did something that she never did before with the Indus water agreement, and we need to see what will be the following things about that. because for the first time she said Pakistan, okay, we are not dealing anymore with the kinetic and army issues. We are dealing in other level. And in Israel, again, I'm not special in Israel, okay? I maybe live here, born and raised here, but I don't understand what happened here. This is our way of life doing since 1948. We need to deal in a lot of, we have a spectrum of threats. And I think this another issue that India and Israel should maybe speak each other about this situation. How you can deal with this doctrine. You know, someone said that there is another common factor between India and Israel, nuclear weapon. I don't, you know, legendly. Not India, of course. India, we know exactly, and it's great. But I think there is another common subject that we can help each other to understand and maybe to learn from each other from this situation. And it's always go back to China. China is looking for the obstacle in the Israeli doctrine and the India doctrine. Like she's looking at all the Western doctrine. And maybe there's another, again, India and Israel need to focus on that because zero toleration, there is a lot of responsible with this statement. And Israel not all the time, you know, make a reliable actor in that. Sometimes yes, and we need to see what's going on with India because this is very important and very sensitive moment for that.
Lauren, now I want to ask you a slightly general question. It's not a research-based question. Where does India, or how does India feature in the mind space of Israelis in general? But how do Israelis see India? Because apart from, of course, a lot of Israelis traveling to India for holiday after they finish their military service, apart from certain soft power aspects of India, such as its movies, etc., what is the general Israeli thinking of when he's thinking of India or she's thinking of India?
So you want a tour, right? Reference. Until when I write my PhD, I wrote the PhD, a lot of people come to me and say, what's going on with you? Are you high? What happened to you? And I tell everyone, listen, something in India, okay, yes, personally, something, of course, emotionally, okay, India has a very special place in my heart. But rational, I know that something will go on with India. And don't undermine the feeling that the Israeli, after the army came from India. We are coming from, after we travel in India, we are coming to Israel and we're talking about it, that our amazing India and how big and complex and variety, and there is a lot of difference from the north to the south, and you need to go there, and they welcome us. They're very warm there. We are feeling safe. Don't undermine that. This is a big issue for us. I remember when I went there in 2007, you know, woman, all by myself, I feel very, you know, safe to walk in the street, to walk in the village, to take a trek. And that was back then. I'm telling you, empirically, in the last decade, the soft power, Modi ji, he's genius because he took the soft power and he took it to the other level. You go in Israel, and I think he saw that. Everyone doing yoga. Everyone want to go to eat India food because it's interesting, it's spicy, it's make us very feel okay. It's familiar, okay. when I go to the university and I see a lot of India students there, I tell myself, oh my God, they are learning engineer and physics and chemistry, and wow, we have the vision of the India that is very smart, that we want to learn. He respect his family because he sent the money to the families, and he go back to the home, and he have respect to the father and his mother and his grandparents, and he know how to deal with complex things like me. But we need to say the truth. For my respect, for my retro respect, and I know it from other people. In the last 4 years, I see how India come much more in the focus, much more we are talking about it. I can see that the government attitude was changed. I can see that the economic sector was changing, the private sector. Yeah, the security field also, we need to say that, the economic field, the medicine, the quantum, the space, everyone thought that we need to do something with India. You said it, I'm writing in Jerusalem Post. I mean, look, they give me a special place every week to write about India.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that, okay? But Israeli channels, news, they are inviting me to speak about India when something is going on.
It's great, yeah.
I'm telling you, in Sidor operation, I don't know if you know Barry Filey for us, very famous model. Yeah, I felt like Barry Filey. On May, really, every channel want to speak with me to understand, and wow, they are similar to us. Wow, Modi is with us, and I say yeah. And it's not only the Israel; it's in USA, in Europe, of course, but we are from the last years, we are changing the way of mind. Before, yes, we saw India, we need to go there after the army, yoga, yay. But now, as like all the world see that, India, it's the fourth economy in the world. It's the largest democracy in the world. You cannot ignore that.
Absolutely.
You cannot do that.
I have a final couple of set of questions. One is on the IMEC, the India Middle Eastern Economic Corridor, something again that you've written about as well in your articles. How critical is this for Israel? Because I was also speaking to Mr. Nir Barkat as well, and he talked about the Haifa port, which has been acquired by Mr. Adani as well. I'm sure it has a certain strategic significance too, apart from simply the economic significance. Can you tell us, put this in the context of IMEC and tell us why is it so important for Israel to be a part of it?
Wow, it's so important for a lot of reasons. Economic, like India, it will be much cheaper. We go to the Europe market. We finally get into the India market. India see Israel as a factor play here, the Haifa port. But I'm a little bit afraid that India doesn't have time for that, because we are waiting for Saudi normalization. We are waiting for Jordan, to upgrade our relationship, because we need them. The train must go there. And we want India to be here. I know that in the DNA of foreign policy and defense policy of India, India does not want to be involved in the conflict, etc. She wants to be involved in the economic aspiration. And this is exactly what we want here. to India, Israel, UAE, USA, after the Abraham Accord, exactly what India needed to be here in this place. You want Israel and UAE. So it's the very high expectation and needed for the two sides. So I'm afraid that India will say, okay, Israel, okay, you are not doing anything. But I learned in the last couple of months that Israel doing a lot of things in IMEC. But again, October 7 was Sinwar did October 7 because India and Saudi was like this in the normalization, and he knows about IMEC, and he knows about India, and he knows that this will be the great thing here in this arena. And I don't know what happened here. I don't know what will happen in Saudi. And for me, it will be a big failure if India will see another actors that are much more important than Israel. And I really hope that you will have the patience to wait and maybe to do something different. But Israel will need to be there. For India and Israel, the relationship with USA is very important. With the Gulf states, it's very important. So it's critical. Like India, it's critical for IMEC. Israel, it's critical for IMEC. For me, it's India and Israel coordinator, not only India.
So just so that I can get a slight elaboration on that, is Israel apprehensive that the IMEC might actually bypass Israel? Is that the concern?
It's a concern, yes, of course. I don't know what is the option, but we understand that we are not in the plane that war that okay, you need to be with Saudi already, but the cards are not in my hand, so it's very difficult. Yes.
Okay, we'll have to wait and see as to how that transpires. One final question, very quickly. Now, while Mr. Modi is in power, Mr. Netanyahu is in power, there India-Israel relations are blossoming. You've also written about how the RSS has had a role to play in India's security strategy, etc. And maybe we can do another interview another time about that. But you would also, of course, know about the history of India and Israel, and when the Congress has been in power, though that relationship has not actually taken off. Yes, Mr. Narasimha Rao was in power when diplomatic ties were established in 1992.
Because Narasimha was a technocrat, and he understood, and the cut was in his favor because other Arabic countries normalized relationship with us, and he needed the USA and reform economic. Yes.
Yeah, and the other Congress leaders might bring the baggage of the entire Nehru, Indira Gandhi era. There is a concern that India-Israel relations might hit a pause if ever in the future there might be a Congress government in power. Is that a concern in your view?
Of course.
Yes.
Of course it's a concern. But I think the last decade teach us that the relationship are much higher and much more strong than it was before, that I don't see how we're going back.
Yeah, true.
No, we are not going back to the 70s when, Indira Gandhi recognized Ashraf as the political factor for the Palestine and build the embassy, Palestine
and invited Yasser Arafat.
India was the first country in the world to do that in the 70s. So I don't see how we go back there, but it won't be Modi factor, as I call it in my researcher. I think the Modi factor was very, very strong because, again, we were under the table, but we are now so much higher than that, and we are much more stronger. And again, our interest and our obstacle are much more important than that.
Absolutely, and the ties are much deeper than any regime-specific considerations. They should not.
And the geopolitical was changing again. Back then, you were in a very difficult situation.
True.
The Cold War, USA went with Pakistan. USSR was giving you a very big help. The friendship agreement. So we cannot undermine these things. But the geopolitical was changing. Yes.
Well, let's hope
thank you so much.
Irreversible. But thank you, Lauren, for speaking to me.